Hi, this is Liam, your narrator here at Home Studio Stories. I just want to say thank you to all of you that are commenting, liking, subscribing, sharing, and of course, listening to the stories. If you have a story you want to send in, please do to homestudiohorror@gmail.com. Alright, let's get into the stories. Newfound Freedom. Mike and Georgia Stevens were enjoying a quiet evening relaxing in their idyllic suburban home. Their 3-year-old daughter, Sarah, was fast asleep in her room. "I can't believe how lucky we are," Georgia said, cuddling up to Mike on the couch. "Our life is perfect." Mike smiled and kissed her on the forehead. "I wouldn't change a thing, baby." They stayed up late watching movies, drinking wine, and at around 2 a.m. they finally retreated up to bed. Later that night, Mike awoke to a horrifying sight. His hands were covered in blood, but it didn't seem to be his. So he screamed and woke up Georgia. It wasn't her blood either though. They both dashed into Sarah's room to find her bed empty and covered in blood. They frantically searched the room for Sarah, but she was gone. They alerted the police, but they found no trace of her either. Despite Mike's certainty of his innocence, the evidence against him was damning. He was found guilty of his daughter's murder and sentenced to life in prison. Georgia, unable to cope with the loss of her daughter and the conviction of her husband, moved away to start anew. 5 years into his sentence though, Mike received a visit from his brother, Jack. "I've got something you need to see," Jack said, sliding a photograph across the table. Mike's heart raced as he looked at the picture. It was Sarah, alive and standing beside an unknown figure. He couldn't believe his eyes. "We've got to find her, Jack," Mike pleaded. With Jack's help, Mike devised a daring plan to escape prison. He knew the consequences would be dire, but the thought of reuniting with Sarah was too tempting to resist. On the night of the escape, Mike whispered to Jack, "Let's do this." As the alarms blared and the guards scrambled, Mike managed to break free and flee into the night. As a fugitive, Mike, along with Jack, followed every lead they could to find Sarah's whereabouts. Their investigation led them to a mysterious organization with ties to some powerful people. During a tense meeting with a whistleblower, Mike learned, "You know too much, Mike. They'll do anything to silence you." Mike knew that the deeper they dug, the greater the danger they faced. With time running out, Mike and Jack, now joined by an investigative journalist named Rebecca, closed in on Sarah's location. "I think we're close," Rebecca said as they approached a remote compound. Facing threats, betrayals and close calls, they fought to reach Sarah before it was too late. Mike, Jack and Rebecca managed to infiltrate the compound, rescuing Sarah from her captors. "Daddy!" Sarah cried, running into Mike's arms. As they made their escape, Mike and his allies confronted the masterminds behind the conspiracy and brought them to justice. With the truth exposed, Mike's name was cleared and he was a free man. Georgia returned, eager to support Mike and rebuild their family. "I'm sorry I ever doubted you, baby," Georgia said tearfully. "I know," Mike replied, hugging her, "but we've got a second chance now." And together, they faced the future, knowing the road to healing would be long, but they were determined to make the most of their newfound freedom. Echoes of the past. Dr. Samuel Nestor slumped in front of his computer screen, the weight of 8 years of grief heavy on his shoulders. The lake, the moonlight, the screams, they haunted his every waking moment. He couldn't escape the memories of that dreadful night when Marie, his wife, was taken from him. As he stared blankly at the screen, a message suddenly appeared. His blood ran cold as he read the phrase, a secret code that only he and Marie shared. "Eternity in a moment," it read. His heart raced with a mix of fear and cautious hope. Was it possible? Could Marie somehow still be alive? Ignoring the warning to tell no one, Sam confided in his closest friend, Janine. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think Marie's alive." Janine looked at him with concern. "Sam, it's been 8 years. This could be someone playing a sick joke." But Sam couldn't let it go. He had to find out the truth. He knew that he couldn't involve the police or his family. This had to be done alone. And so, he started his search, beginning with the mysterious message. Following the clues in the message, Sam found himself in an abandoned warehouse. A sinister figure, shrouded in darkness, stood before him. "Who are you?" Sam demanded, his voice shaky but determined. "I am the one who can lead you to your wife," the figure replied cryptically. "But you must be willing to face your darkest fears." Sam didn't hesitate. "I'll do whatever it takes." Over the following weeks, Sam was led through a labyrinth of deception and danger. He became increasingly paranoid, convinced that someone was always watching him. The search consumed him, pulling him further away from his friends and family, and eventually, Sam's search led him to a remote cabin deep in the woods. He was both terrified and exhilarated, knowing that he could be close to the truth. Inside the cabin, he discovered a room filled with photographs and newspaper clippings about Marie's disappearance. His hands trembled as he picked up a picture of Marie, alive and seemingly unharmed. A voice from behind startled Sam, causing him to drop the photograph. "You shouldn't have come here." Sam turned to see the sinister figure from the warehouse, his face now revealed. "Why are you doing this? Where's Marie?" The man smirked. "She's alive, but you can't find her without my help." Sam clenched his fists. "What do you want from me?" The man's eyes darkened. "I want you to suffer, just like I have." The man revealed himself to be Henry, Marie's ex-boyfriend, who had never really gotten over her. Consumed by jealousy and rage, he'd orchestrated her kidnapping and staged her death. "But why keep her alive all this time?" Sam asked, horrified by Henry's twisted mind. "For leverage," Henry replied coldly. "To control you, to make you feel the same helplessness and despair that I felt when she chose you over me." Sam's mind raced, desperate to find a way to save Marie and himself. In a moment of clarity, he realized that Henry had made a crucial mistake. He'd underestimated Sam's love for his wife. Summoning all his courage, Sam lunged at Henry, catching him off guard. The two men struggled, with Sam eventually gaining the upper hand, and he bound Henry and called the authorities. As the police arrived, Sam explained everything that had transpired. The police arrested Henry and began the search for Marie with Sam's help. Following Henry's clues and some of the items hidden in the room, they discovered a hidden underground bunker near the cabin. With bated breath, Sam opened the door and was met with the sight of Marie, frail but alive. The reunion was bittersweet. The couple embraced, tears streaming down their faces. The years of separation and torment had taken their toll, but the love between them remained strong. As Marie recovered, she and Sam began the long journey of healing together. They attended therapy and leaned on each other for support. Slowly they started rebuilding their lives, savouring the second chance they'd been given. Despite the darkness that had surrounded them, Sam and Marie emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. They'd confronted their worst fears and come out victorious, their love a testament to the power of hope, determination, and the unbreakable bond between two souls. In time, the memories of the gleaming lake, the pale moonlight, and the piercing screams began to fade. In their place, Sam and Marie created new memories, memories of love, resilience, and a life reclaimed from the shadows of the past. The Unseen Shadows. Johnny Mancina, a successful lawyer and prosecutor for Bay County, Florida, couldn't shake the memories of that fateful summer camp 20 years ago. The image of his girlfriend, Laura, disappearing into the woods never to be seen again, haunted him. Her body was never found, and the police concluded that she was the victim of a notorious serial killer. Now, Johnny found himself in the midst of the biggest case of his career. As he reviewed the files, he realized that there was something eerily familiar about the case. The details of the crime were similar to Laura's disappearance, stirring up long-buried emotions. As the trial began, Johnny delved deeper into the case. The defendant, Robert Winston, was accused of kidnapping and murdering several women in the past 2 decades. The victims shared a striking resemblance to Laura too, and the modus operandi was chillingly similar. During the trial, Johnny questioned Robert relentlessly, trying to connect the dots between his current case and Laura's disappearance. One day, while cross-examining Robert, Johnny asked, "Were you present at the Camp Pine Grove 20 years ago?" Robert's eyes flickered with recognition, and he hesitated before answering. "Yeah, I was there." The courtroom fell silent, and Johnny's heart pounded in his chest. He knew that he was on the verge of uncovering the truth. As the trial progressed, Johnny became increasingly obsessed with finding the link between Robert and Laura's case. He spent sleepless nights poring over the evidence and revisiting the campsite where Laura disappeared. One evening, while examining the old camp records, Johnny stumbled upon a hidden cabin deep in the woods. Inside, he discovered a cache of personal items belonging to the missing women, including a locket with a picture of Laura inside. Overwhelmed with grief and anger, Johnny knew that he had found the missing piece of the puzzle. He was more determined than ever to bring Robert to justice. In the courtroom, Johnny presented the evidence he'd found in the cabin. The atmosphere was tense, and the jury's eyes were glued to him as he made his case. "Your Honor," Johnny said, his voice shaking with emotion, "these items prove that Robert Winston is not only responsible for the crimes he's being charged with, but he's also connected to the disappearance of my girlfriend, Laura, 20 years ago." Robert's face turned pale, and he could no longer hide his guilt. The jury found Robert guilty on all counts, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, and he was led away in handcuffs. He looked at Johnny and muttered, "You'll never find all of them." Chills ran down Johnny's spine, but he knew that he had finally achieved justice for Laura and the other victims. In the following months, Johnny worked with the authorities to uncover more evidence, leading to the discovery of additional remains. The weight of the past began to lift, and Johnny was able to find some semblance of closure. The case had changed everything Johnny believed about his past and the truth. He had exposed a monster, and in doing so, had come face to face with his darkest fears. But in the end, Johnny Mancina had emerged triumphant, a beacon of hope and justice for the victims who could no longer speak for themselves. The Swamp's Whisper. Ferry lived a secluded life on the outskirts of town, close to the Okefenokee swamps, where he'd been found 30 years ago. His feral past and lack of a known identity had earned him the distrust of the townspeople. However, he had managed to survive, honing his skills as a former soldier and security expert. One day, a criminal attorney named Jermaine Minkle approached him. "Ferry, I need your help. A child has gone missing and nobody seems to care. I believe she's in danger." Ferry hesitated, wary of getting involved in the town's affairs, but something in Jermaine's eyes compelled him to agree. Together, Ferry and Jermaine began searching for the missing girl. Ferry used his keen tracking skills, honed during his time in the military and his feral upbringing, to search for any trace of the child. As the days passed, hope began to wane. Jermaine, however, remained resolute. "We can't give up, Ferry. We've got to find her." Ferry nodded, his determination renewed by Jermaine's unwavering faith. On the 4th day of their search, a package arrived for Jermaine. Inside, they found a severed human finger. Horrified, they knew the stakes had just risen. This was no simple disappearance. Someone in their town was hiding a dark secret, and the girl's life hung in the balance. Ferry and Jermaine dug deeper, following a trail of clues that led them to a hidden underground bunker near the swamps. Inside, they discovered a chamber filled with chilling evidence of human trafficking. As they continued their search, Ferry's instincts led them to a room where they found the missing girl, terrified but alive. They quickly freed her and contacted the authorities. With the girl safely returned to her family, Ferry and Jermaine worked tirelessly to expose the town's hidden criminal network. One by one, the ringleaders were arrested and their victims were rescued. As the townspeople realized the extent of the evil that had festered in their midst, their attitude towards Ferry began to change. No longer was he seen as an outcast, but as a hero who had used his unique skills to save the innocent. Ferry, for his part, began to feel a sense of belonging that he had never experienced before. With Jermaine by his side, he found a purpose and a home within the community that had once shunned him. Together, Ferry and Jermaine continued to fight for justice, their bond forged in the shadow of the Okefenokee swamps, a testament to the power of determination, hope, and the triumph of good over evil. Echoes of Betrayal. 11 years ago, Jamie Stillman's life was shattered when his wife, Helen, was brutally murdered. The prime suspect was his own brother, Jack, who'd vanished without trace, leaving Jamie to pick up the pieces. In the intervening years, Jamie found solace in working with the homeless and in the arms of his new girlfriend, Violet. But the ghost of his past refused to let him go. When Jamie's mother passed away, she revealed on her deathbed that Jack was still alive. The news shook Jamie to his core, reopening old wounds and casting doubt on everything he believed about his brother's guilt. Soon after, Violet disappeared. As Jamie searched for her, he uncovered a dark secret. Violet was wanted for a savage double murder. His world began to crumble around him, and he knew he had to find the truth. He delved into Violet's past, uncovering a web of deception and criminal activity. Along the way, Jamie found clues that hinted at Jack's whereabouts, and he couldn't shake the feeling that his brother and Violet's disappearance were connected in some way. Jamie's search led him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. Inside, he discovered a secret criminal organization with ties to both Violet and Jack. He learnt that Violet had been coerced into working for the organization, and they had kidnapped her to force her to carry out their nefarious plans. Jack, it turned out, had infiltrated the organization to clear his name and protect his brother. With time running out, Jamie and Jack teamed up to save Violet and bring the criminals to justice. They infiltrated the organization's headquarters, outsmarting and battling their adversaries. As they fought their way through the building, Jamie confronted Violet, who tearfully confessed her involvement with the organization. Together, they vowed to bring an end to the darkness that had ensnared them all. In a climactic battle, Jamie, Jack, and Violet faced off against the criminal organization's leader. They exposed his treachery, revealing the truth about Helen's murder and the double murder for which Violet had been framed. With the leader's arrest, the organization crumbled, and Jack was finally exonerated for the crime he did not commit. In the aftermath of their ordeal, Jamie, Jack, and Violet struggled to come to terms with the betrayals that they had endured. They'd all been victims of this sinister organization, but their shared struggle had forged an unbreakable bond between them. Together they began the long road to healing, rebuilding their lives, and finding solace in the knowledge that they'd survived in the darkness. With the truth finally revealed, they were able to face the future with hope and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.